My name is Jasper. I'm an 18-year-old aspiring artist and creative. I work with a variety of mediums, including Copic markers and coloured pencils, and my pieces are inspired by pop culture, nature, and my own original stories and ideas.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
For some context for the audience and for everyone to know how we kind of met. We essentially, I go to Daramit's gym and I go into the Rundle Mall one. Yeah. And after my workout, I was literally just in the sauna and you guys happened to be there as well.
Yeah, I was there with my friend.
Yeah, exactly. And then we started having a chat about just like stuff. And then you started telling me your story, which I thought was so fascinating. And I'm like, hey, look, I do a podcast. You want to come share a story?
Yeah, I was very surprised by the opportunity and the meeting place for it. So,
you'd be surprised how many interesting people you find. So I literally found another one like a couple of weeks ago, which is great. Sauna's a great place.
Yeah.
Kind of locked in, no phones, just have to have a chat. So, but could you tell the audience a little bit about what you told me in that sauna about who you are and like your story up to this point?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm just fresh out of high school. I'm only 18, but I've been drawing for about 15 years, since I was about 3 years old. Most of my artworks are inspired by pop culture, nature, and recently I've been getting into my own original stories and ideas. I'm currently taking a gap year to focus on building my personal brand online and just trying to expand my portfolio and make as many pieces as I can this year.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's break that down a little bit in terms of how you got into paint. So what is it exactly that you do? What would you define yourself as?
I wouldn't say that I'm a painter, just like an illustrator or a portrait artist or something, because I don't actually paint. I'm actually quite bad at painting.
Really?
I use a blend of Copic markers, which are an alcohol-based marker brand, and just coloured pencils.
Wow, okay.
Make my pieces, yeah.
I from looking at your work, I thought you were a painter. I didn't know that there was this many differences.
Yeah, lots of people think so, just at first glance. But yeah, I use Copic markers to lay like a foundational blend of like colour for my pieces, and then I go over with coloured pencils to add like additional detail.
Yeah. Could you maybe start by going through your life a little bit and telling me how you got into painting in the first place? Like what made you want to pursue that?
I think it all started just with, I'm a massive like fan of film and television and video games and stuff like that. And I think just seeing, the potential of storytelling and the way all those characters, whether it be in the Marvel films or DC and stuff like that, presented on film, really inspired me growing up. So that was kind of the starting point. I'll just draw all my favourite characters when I was little. And I've kind of just never stopped doing it. I still draw my favourite characters to this day.
Who was your first like proper, that you would call like your high quality level art piece? Who did you draw?
Like the first one that I'd say, probably I drew Joker back in 2019.
Yeah.
For the standalone film with Joaquin Phoenix. That was like a very pivotal piece for me because that was when I first got Copic markers, and that was when I really started to step up my attention to detail and the way I portrayed expressions and colour in my pieces.
Yeah, so from someone that's not as well versed in the artistic scene in terms of like creating art, so from my understanding of what you're talking about, you've been kind of meddling with art and experimenting your whole life. Yep. And then, 2019 you started. What made you want to start Copic markers?
So I used to just, it's from YouTube actually. I used to watch a YouTuber named Draw with Jazza. He's an Australian-based artist as well actually. And he used to do these character design videos where he would take prompts from his audience, several prompts actually, and put them together and make an original character. And I love those videos, and I noticed the medium he was using, the markers, and I just thought the way the colours blended so seamlessly was like just awesome. I'd never seen that before in any other medium. Normally with pencils and painting, it's a much longer and like tedious process trying to get those even blends, but the markers just do it so seamlessly. So probably for my birthday or Christmas, I got like a small pack and started experimenting from there. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And then, so you started experimenting. Did it kind of like click?
Yeah, it
using
was
those?
Once I first got them and was inspired by Jaspa, I started researching other YouTubers online. I found this guy named Stefan Ward. He's another Australian-based artist, I think from Melbourne. And he did more realistic pieces of work that were more my style. And I really started to analyze the way he applied his Copic markers, and that started trying to replicate his technique, and that really improved my work like very quickly. I'd say that was like, there was a massive jump between that Joker piece and every piece from then. Like, it's just improved.
Yeah, amazing. And so with your progress and how you've grown in both your art and also in social media, could you explain that a little bit? Like,
yeah, sure. So, like I mentioned before, I've grown up like watching YouTube and being inspired by all the creators online. And I think, the potential of getting yourself out there is so great nowadays with the internet. And I was really inspired by all of their stories and, the opportunities that have come their way due to utilizing platforms like YouTube and Instagram and now TikTok. And so I started making my own Instagram posts probably about in year 4, so I was about 10. I'll just post like little sketches and whatnot every now and again.
Really? Wow.
I've made several accounts since then, and now I've got my definitive account. But yeah, I've tried to keep up with that as much as I can. Sometimes I'd be a bit slack with it through the years, but yeah, recently, probably the beginning of year 12, so beginning of last year, I started taking it more seriously and trying to post more consistently online. And it's been really great because I've been able to actually collaborate with the Copic marker brand. I'm currently collaborating with them this month. They feature my work, and I just have to promote the product, like the markers. And
how did that come about? Did you reach out to them? Or
I posted I made a piece of Dexter from the TV series, and that was a couple years ago now, I think in 2021. And I tagged the Australian Copic marker account on Instagram, and they happened to notice it and put it on their story. At the time, I was actually too young to be featured as an ambassador, but they let me do it anyway. So I've done it twice now, and both times it's been a nature-themed piece. So in 2022 or 2021, I made this original bee design, and it's just like a nice like landscape type piece. And then recently, I haven't shown it off yet, but I've made a Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit inspired pieces with like nice scenery of Middle Earth.
Yeah. Nice. And do they give you free markers?
Yeah, they do actually.
Yeah,
I get
nice.
15 free markers each time. So that's,
each time?
Yeah,
wow.
really good.
Do you get to pick which colors?
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. How many are there? Like, how many colors are there that you can get?
I think there's close to 300.
Yeah, wow. So it's kind of like a collection.
That's why they're really great for blending too, because they, it's just like, there's not just one green color, like there's probably about 20 or, so there's heaps of colors to pick from and utilize.
Yeah. That's really good. I think we've covered a little bit of technical information about painting.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to a little bit more general kind of life advice. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are starting off where you were maybe, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so what kind of made you want to take this further? Was that a decision you made at some point, or did you just kind of naturally keep growing?
I think a bit of both. Like, I know plenty of artists who keep going, but they don't promote their work and stuff as much as I do now. And I think, just seeing, like I said before, seeing the potential in being able to promote your stuff online and the range and variety of opportunities that come towards you, I thought it was just something I just had to do,
Yeah, that's so good. But then you obviously mentioned that you just finished year 12, which means you've now made a decision to follow your art instead of going through a normal career path. So
life's too short not to.
Not everyone would have that view.
That's true.
A lot of people are in a rush for some reason.
Yeah. I found it. I'm lucky enough that my family's been very supportive and understanding of what I want to do, and they've all personally experienced very similar things. Neither of my parents were in a rush to go to uni or anything, and I found that it's been better that way. And I found that lots of friends have struggled rushing into uni or have dropped out because of it. I think it's good just to take a year like I have, or even I might do another year, just to focus on trying lots of different things. I want to travel. Obviously, I'm pursuing my art career, my dream, and just, gathering lots of life experience before I really narrow down what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you kind of answered my question, which was you mentioned that friends around you are struggling now. Do you regret, when you compare yourself to them, or when you look at what they've done at uni this 1 year and what you've been able to do this year, do you ever regret it, or do you think you made the right choice based?
No, I definitely think I made the right choice. Uni's not going anywhere. I can go anytime. I can go in my 30s. I can go, in my late 20s. I'm in no rush to pursue that. It's always going to be there for me, where this is like an opportunity. If I get on now, I can establish a good work ethic for it and a good foundation that I can continue to do for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. What's the goal? What's the dream? Or you just more where the road takes you, or do you have
a bit of both. So with what I'm doing currently, it's just a bit of kind of where the road takes you type thing. But I treat it more as practice. Lately, I've been trying to refine my ability to tell a story through my art. And that is because I want to go beyond just drawing. I want to make, like I said, I was inspired by films and games and stuff growing up. I want to be able to inspire others through my own films and games at some point. In high school, I did a Certificate 3 in game art, foundations and design. And that's something I definitely would consider picking back up at some point, with both the technical experience required for that, but also the storytelling and the storytelling experience I've picked up through my art.
And why do you think that's so important in society? What is the value that art brings in general? I'm sorry, it's a tough question.
Yeah, it is a tough question.
I want to see how you think.
I think art and storytelling specifically is really important in confronting certain issues, and through a lens that's creative and entertaining. It's not just a confronting conversation or something. It's you're able to depict certain themes and ideas through a creative lens, and I think that tends to stay with people or click with them more than just a standard conversation or whatnot. I found that specifically worked for me. Growing up watching films and stuff, I feel I learnt a lot and learned to put myself in other people's shoes because of those stories.
Mm. Yeah, wow. I think when I think of art as well, I feel I don't know, maybe this is from my own experience, but obviously as a man, and in society, and there's a lot of talk about this now, about mental health and emotions and being able to feel as a man, and how society kind of tells you to be tough, right? Obviously women have a lot of emotions and they feel a lot, but I feel I've had experiences where I've looked at a piece of art and I've been able to feel an emotion that I've never felt before through just situations. That's definitely happened through music and through art in general.
That's very much the same way I feel towards it. I've probably experienced the most emotion through storytelling and watching films or listening to music, like you said. And
Do you ever, because I've seen your paintings there, and we'll put some clips up of your paintings. If you can send some photos and
course,
stuff, we'll like show it through the episode as we're talking.
Yeah.
But you've definitely painted some, because I'm just thinking about the process here. But you've definitely painted some scenes where the people may not always be the happiest.
Yeah, I think.
Do you ever like when you're painting someone's face and you are depicting an emotion in their face?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that emotion yourself?
I don't know. I don't think so. I've never really thought about that. I don't think I have, no, but I get what you mean by lots of my pieces. I get this all the time. People say they're very dark or scary or whatever. And I'm a big horror fan. I love darker stories and stuff like that. And I think that's for the same reason I mentioned before. They're not afraid to be confronting and tell stories that might be revolved around darker themes and real world problems, when it comes to mental health and things like that, or grief, or, death and stuff like that. I think they're important stories to tell, and I think they allow people to not be afraid to then express those feelings in real life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I do understand what you mean. I think current media and film and everything, especially in the West, because if you look at a lot of like Eastern film, like I'm specifically speaking from my experience. So Indian films, they are it's so strange. They're amazing storytellers because they're able to portray like such difficult situations and emotions and really gory situations without showing visually any like gore.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all done through dialogue and expression and cinematography. And it's like nothing, like I actually personally don't enjoy Indian cinema that much because it's like, it's not something you can just put on the background. A lot of Western media, like not media, but like film and TV shows, it's almost just like a background thing. You just put it on the background and just worry about it. But like every Indian movie I've seen is just like so intense and just pulls you in.
Very engaging.
Yeah. And I feel like horror does do that as well. But I like what you said about it confronts emotions that people don't really...
they're scared to talk about. That's why I love the genre. And that's the genre specifically I'd like to explore. I'm doing my original portraits right now, but also beyond my art when I do my own games. That's the genre specifically I'd like to explore. Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Do you think there's a lot of future in that in Adelaide? I think so. Recently, again, these YouTubers, Danny and Michael Philippou from Raka Raka, they've been doing YouTube for well over 10 years now, since I was little. They started off doing stunt videos like wrestling and stuff in their backyard, or comedy videos. I don't know if you've ever seen like the Ronald McDonald fighting videos and stuff online, but they did all those, and they've just recently debuted their own horror film, which got picked up by A24, and it's been released globally. And they're from Adelaide, so
it's really like there's these one-off stories and individuals that are really showing people in Adelaide that, hey, you don't have to move. Things can get done here, and I think because the president's there, like it opens the doors for more people to. And
I think that links back to the potential of internet exposure. They started off through YouTube, just doing YouTube, and that's opened up so many doors for them. And now they're film creators, they're directors.
Do you ever think? I mean, like I don't know. There's an age difference here because you're 18 now and I'm 24, so it's like 6 years, right? Yeah. When I was growing up in high school is when like YouTubers were booming, like the English YouTubers and all that. It's kind of dropped off now.
Yeah, maybe YouTube definitely has, but it's carried on through other platforms in a sense.
So you don't think there's a huge future in YouTube?
No, I think YouTube, it's kind of adapting like with shorts and stuff. So I think there definitely still is a future.
Do you think that's dangerous? Because like I get profits and I get that companies want to do where the people's eyes are, and people like short content, so let's push out short content. But like it's a bit worrying that every generation can't handle What, content for more than 30 seconds?
Yeah, no, I do very much understand that part of it. It kind of sucks sometimes because I do tend to prefer long form content, and I want to make more of that. I have been recently. I think the way around it is by just producing long form content and then making like clips of that long form content too. But I understand what you're saying.
Which is what we're doing, right?
Yeah, the attention span side of it is pretty worrying.
I mean, even from a painting point of view, right? Like, I've seen some of your work, and there is a lot of detail that goes into that.
Yeah.
You like, I get that you show the painting for 10 seconds on a TikTok, right? Yeah. But there is absolutely no way someone can actually pick up all of that detail in that short amount of time. And like,
it's kind of frustrating with my art because of that. It kind of contradicts itself because somebody should be looking at the piece for a long time to like fully get it and pick up on all the details, but it's hard to get people to retain their attention for that long online specifically. That's why I'm trying to, I've just recently done a market stall, and I'm trying to do more of that. So I'm trying to get my work out there in person as well.
Do you have a website for that or anything?
No, I just promote it online and hopefully people show up. Otherwise,
markets are like an in-person market
in-person
stall. Oh, where did you do that?
I did that. I live at Christie's Beach, so I just did the closest one there. It went pretty well, but I'd like to start doing more artsy kind of markets. Yeah. That was more like a trash and treasure type one.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I want to continue that this year. Try to put myself more out there in person.
Yeah. Well, we'll link everything in the description below with like your socials and everything, so people can go check out the work.
Thank you.
And you sell? So you saying you sell work? Do you sell online as well?
Yeah, I sell prints of my work online and a couple of my originals.
Has that been successful? Like, have you found a lot of success in that?
I have, to a degree. I get orders every now and again, and I have like some reoccurring collectors.
Oh my goodness, you have collectors. That's crazy.
A collector one.
Yeah.
But I get orders at least once a month currently, but you know, it's a start. And I've had, however, because of the online reach, my first piece that really blew up online on TikTok was my God of War Ragnarok piece. That did really well, and I made about 30 orders in a day. So that was like close to $1,000 over a week.
That must have been
that was
a lot
awesome.
of dopamine.
Yeah, that was great. And that's kind of, I've seen the success in promoting my stuff online, and I'd just like to keep at it and try to get it to be more consistent. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask about some advice that you have for anyone that was trying to start getting into painting. Yeah. Not from like a career or personal kind of way, but like actually technically. What's something that you wish you would have known, or some tips that you have?
So a technical piece of advice I would give is color what you see rather than what you know. So for instance, if I were to tell you to draw me, you might just pick a single color that matches closest to my skin tone and just like go over a very flat surface with it, like just the one color. Whereas if you take a closer look at my complexion and stuff, you'll notice that lots of hues of pink, red, and like blues and stuff like that. Very lots of cool and warm tones that actually make up the skin. So that's something I've picked up in recent years, which has drastically improved like just the color and my detail in pieces. You know, there's a lot more, nothing's just like one flat color. If you take a closer look, there's lots that make up that appearance.
Yeah, that's really good. Wow, okay, that's actually, that's a really good point. I've never thought about that. Color, what was it? Color what you see, not what you...
Yeah, color what you see, not what you know. So...
Yeah, not what you know, because you kind of have a perception of what you think,
like what you think something, like you might say, oh yeah, that's a blue chair, but if you take a closer look, there's lots of like blacks and cool grey tones and stuff that make up the actual colour.
What was the most, so obviously you do a lot of portraits and people's faces and things like that. What's the most difficult part for you to paint? When you, or what took the longest time to kind of develop?
Portraits are like my specialty, so I feel like that kind of comes most naturally. Like I just love it. Like depicting expressions and stuff like that. But when it comes to, if you tried to get me to draw a human body, just like off the top of my head without a reference or something, just all the limbs and stuff, it's gets too complex. I'm good with just faces and hands. That's kind of what I focus on. But full body drawings, I'm just hopeless at.
Yeah, interesting. And so when you do a lot of images of people that already exist, or from movies or TV shows, right? How have you found going into more of that original piece instead of copying?
It's been fun because I do all the photo shoots myself. So my first original piece I did recently was a self-portrait, a horror self-portrait. So I set up my camera.
Is that online?
Yeah, I covered myself in fake blood, and I got all dressed up and like costumed for it. And that was just a lot of fun trying to like act sort of for the camera, trying to get into character.
We'll put a photo of that up while we're talking.
And I've done another one since of my sister. And that was fun because I was behind the camera, sort of like a director, directing her, getting her posed right for it. And I've just done it again recently with my little brother, and I'm working on that piece currently.
Yeah, interesting. So that's the process. So I didn't know this actually. So you actually would take a photo. When you say an original piece, it's not like just brand new off the top of your head.
No, I use, when I approach any piece, I always have references. So I did a photo shoot, and then when I had access to Photoshop at school, put it through that, I added a bunch of supernatural features to myself. So I gave myself super sharp fingernails and made my eyes all blacked out and beady and stuff like that. And then I use that as reference and then draw it.
And then you obviously add more as you're drawing.
Yeah. So anything that kind of I'm not as technically skilled in to do on Photoshop, I just do myself.
Yeah, because that actually makes a lot of sense because what I was going to say was like when you're drawing, I can imagine how much skill you need to be able to draw a face that's showing an emotion without a reference.
Yeah, that takes...
Sadness is not just,
I feel like that's something you probably would have to study for, whereas just using references is what has always worked for me.
Yeah.
And I just love doing it.
That's amazing. I remember like the one piece of artistic thing that always stuck with me was when Michelangelo sculpted David. Have you heard of this?
Yep.
About the tendon?
Yeah, I think so.
So Michelangelo sculpted David. I think that was the correct statue. Mm-hmm. And in his pose, the person that was making the video was pointing out how much anatomy that Michelangelo knew, and to the point where in the painting he had his like arm stretched out and he had his like pinky out. And apparently when you have your pinky out, there's like one tendon that sticks out in your forearm. And if you look at the sculpture, he had that tendon matched to his pinky.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, it's amazing. It's just a subtle thing that bring reality,
Yeah, bring it to life.
Yeah. Wow. So you kind of done a lot of portraits. I'm sure you've experimented with things. What are you kind of working on now that you're trying to push the envelope with in your own skill? And
like I mentioned earlier, for the most part, I'm just trying to improve my storytelling, the storytelling aspects when it comes to my piece. I feel like technical wise, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. However, I am trying to improve my attention to detail when it comes to backgrounds featured in my piece. That's something I feel like I sometimes do struggle with, spend a lot more time on is whether I'm drawing buildings or plants. And mainly people, when there's lots of people featured in a piece, and like I said before,
in the background.
I'm not as good with full body stuff, so that's been more of a challenge recently, but I'm getting better at it.
There you go. It's great that you have a mindset of always improving.
Yeah.
Well, while we were having a chat, I was thinking about how, and maybe you know the answer to this. I think when you look at social media, you see. It's like anything with social media where it kind of skews what the real perception of the world is. Like when you look at social media for an artist, you just see millions of artists. But you go to real life, it's like, I want to find an artist. There's like no one.
Yeah.
So it's like, have you found what the talent that you have and the skill that you have is rare? And in real life, obviously when you look online, it's like left and right, there's everyone. But
I would say, I feel like it hasn't really been rare for me because my cousin does it as well. We've grown up doing it together. he does more charcoal-based portraits. So I've always had people around me who did similar things, but I have noticed through school there would only ever be like one other person normally who would be able to draw like me. I feel like it is rare to find people in person. And just going back to the social media thing you said too, my newest piece is based around that whole idea, like the skewed perception of social media and the envious nature lots of people have towards others online, or just that's what my newest horror portrait's focused on. Like,
is that released yet?
No, it's not.
So
That's
you're
the one
currently
I'm
working on it.
right now.
Nice. Okay, I'm keen to see that one.
I'm excited to share it.
That'd be awesome. No, absolutely. I think you make a really good point. And in going back to social media as well, like it is great that you get a platform where you can show yourself off and promote your things and make a career out of something that you love doing. But that is the negative side of it, right?
Yeah, it's all about balance for me. I've learned that a lot through my mum. She's always said it's important to balance everything out in life, and that's something I've been trying to do. Like, I love going camping or going to the gym where I met you. Just trying to balance everything out, just so you're not too consumed in one singular thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you kind of see yourself in like 5-10 years time?
I have no idea.
Never thought about it?
No, not really. I'm still just doing what I'm doing, hopefully. I just want to really continue to improve upon it and just grow my audience and just make bigger and better pieces. Pretty much every new piece I make is always my favourite. So I just want to keep doing that and keep improving, and kind of the opportunities follow with just what I'm doing. Like, I've never really reached out to try and do anything. They just kind of, I'm lucky enough to have had lots of opportunities from it. So I just want to keep doing it and see what happens.
I think there's a balance there with what you said, because you did say, obviously, growing up, there was that talent piece where, not everyone could do what you do.
Yeah.
But we talked to, so last episode we had, his name was Kylie. He was doing it. So it's not out yet. It'll come out this week. Yeah. But we were talking to him, and he's a mathematical biologist. So he's doing his PhD in mathematical biology. And we were just talking about like the type of people that would be good for a PhD. We were fully expecting him to say, like the smartest, most genius people. But he was like, it's got nothing to do with being a genius. It's got nothing to do with smart. Honestly, the people that do a PhD are the ones that don't give up. And I think that's very true in life, because in life, especially younger when you're in life, in the early stages, you meet so many people that are talented because everyone's doing things for the first time, and people are picking things up at different paces, and someone's really good at art because you all started doing it, and now it's 3 years and one person's gotten really good because they're just talented. Yeah. But then it gets to 10 years, maybe something hard has happened to them and they just dropped off, or but this other person's took a lot longer to get there, and maybe they didn't have as much raw talent, but they just kept going and going and going and just didn't give up. And
it's more like obsession.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not really, talent is important, but I think the longer you live, the less talent is important.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think like chasing that moment and the status, like you said, I think that's so important. Like, your favorite piece is your latest piece. Yeah. Just obsessing over it and just like trying to improve. Yeah. Like, talent is important, but I think hard work and perseverance is a bit more important. Yeah.
Well, I've been doing this a long time now, so
there you go, right? And you haven't given up or anything like that. Okay, so we had a bit of a chat about kind of your paintings and your process. Yeah. Looking at the future of like art and paintings, and again, I keep saying paintings, but it's not what you do. Yeah, what is it? It's a sketch?
I just call them drawings.
Drawings, yeah technically, because you're drawing, right? With the introduction of AI, I think that has really made a blow in the creative space.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything to do with, art, like artistic, like visual art, anything to do with music, anything to do with songwriting, creativity, it's all kind of can be automated now. Yeah. And I think it's like called out a lot of the crappy artists that are just copying people's work, because now you can just get AI to do that.
Yeah, that's it.
Where do you see the future of AI and art? Like, is that something to be feared and pushed away and pretend it doesn't exist, or maybe we can use it, or like, have you thought about this at all?
I feel like it just needs to be integrated and used like sparingly. It does raise like lots of questions, and there's lots of uncertainty around the future surrounding creative careers and certain roles. And like you said, it's kind of shed light on lots of the crappier artists and stuff, like people who are just copying others. And I think that's where my recent focus of the storytelling sides of it, it's really been a big focus of mine, because it's more original and it strays from the technical sides of it, which AI can sort of replicate, whereas they can't replicate like the human aspect of it, like the ideas and thoughts that go into making the piece.
Yeah. It's so interesting when you say storytelling, because usually that term is used in video or audio, where you are literally telling a story through time, as in whatever the medium that you're using actually spans through time, right? So you get to linearly tell a story as it goes, where I've never thought of a drawing as a storytelling medium, because it's so different from a picture, because a picture captures a moment in time, and it can tell a story, sure. But a painting can actually be so insightful, even though it doesn't change.
Yeah, that's it.
How do you tell a story through a painting? Like,
for me, I tend to recently focusing lots on expression and color. Color has meaning. Again, like I said, expression, costuming. That's why a lot of the approach towards making my original pieces very based around kind of films and stuff. Like, I'm getting into character, I'm doing all the makeup and costuming and stuff, so it all ties into the piece and can kind of capture more of a moment or tell a story and be more insightful.
And have you had a lot of people, like, what's the feedback been of your drawings? That,
like, my original ones?
Yeah, or just your other ones, like that story, are people seeing the story?
That's something I'm actually about to post recently. I've made a 3-part series on each of my original pieces that I'll be talking about. Probably post it tomorrow, actually. Just talking through the process and then explaining the meaning behind all the features in the piece.
Let's talk a little bit about that whole process, because we had a bit of a chat before we started filming, but how long does a painting take? Like, how big is it? Like,
so I tend to work in 4 different sizes. So A5, which is the smallest, that takes about 10 hours, and they kind of all double from there. A4 is usually about 20.
Can you show an A5 with your hand?
Yeah, A5's about this big.
And that takes 10 hours?
10, maybe less.
Yeah.
It just depends on like how much is in the piece.
Yeah. Do you usually do that in one go, or split it out?
The A5 ones, they're a lot quicker. Usually in a day or 2, I get them done. A4 can be between 10 to 20. That's like standard paper size. A3's double that, so about that size. That's when it starts to get a lot more. That's more like 20 to 30. And then my biggest pieces, which are A2, they're anywhere between 30 to 50.
Yeah, because it's not like digital media where you're just scaling it. Yeah. 'Cause the bigger you get, the more detail you have to put in. And the concentration of creativity.
Yeah, and once all the, if I'm drawing a face from, an A2 size, it's so much bigger. So you have to consider like this. So like, you pick up on so many more of the pores and details in the face, so it just takes so much longer.
And how much did you say the biggest one takes?
The longest I've taken is just over 50 hours, so about 55.
55 hours. Yeah. And did you do that over how long?
That was the first one first massive piece I did, so maybe a month,
Oh wow, yeah,
couple of weeks. But this current one I'm doing about a week or two.
yeah. Do you ever work on multiple paintings at the same time?
Yeah, I've got because I've planned, like I've scheduled the rest of the year. Like I know what I'm doing for the rest of the year. Whenever I've got free time, I get all my sketches ready and do all the line work, so it's just ready to color when I get to it. So I can just get stuck straight into the next piece when I'm done.
Yeah.
With my previous one.
And over the course of this year, how many of them are going to be like originals, and how many are you trying to stray more towards original pieces or more towards?
I'm mainly just focused on doing those, finishing my horror collection, like the original horror portrait collection, because those pieces are all inspired by original stories, which I hope to turn into film or video games when I'm older. That's sort of why I made the pieces. They serve as a reminder to me to, stick to that dream and pursue it beyond my portrait work. Otherwise, most of my pieces for the rest of the year are all just based on, I'm just trying to get it all out of my system, do all my favorite characters and stuff, so that when I do focus more on original work, I'm not getting sucked back into doing other stuff. Like I just want to focus on.
Do you see yourself improving with every painting as well? Like, do you feel like the quality is kind of plateaued? Like now you can consistently do a good quality each time?
I feel like certain things plateau, but then other things improve. Like I said, been trying to focus on storytelling. Sometimes that improves. Sometimes the artistic skill improves. Something always improves.
Yeah,
which is the main part.
And how often do you do a painting? Like, is it?
Currently I'm doing one a week.
Yeah.
Or sometimes when I do my smaller ones, I can fit in like 2.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So that's like 20 to 40 hours.
Yeah.
30 to 40 hours.
Lately, I've been very, very into it. It's been great. Yeah.
Where do you find the motivation? Because as an engineer, right, like we always talk about passion projects and little things you want to do that don't make any money, but like just for fun.
Yeah.
We never get around to it.
Yeah.
But you sound like, in your spare time, you said you just go and do the line art and you sketch and...
Yeah, well, obviously I work and stuff to, get by, but whenever I can, I just love it. Like, it's just, I love the way, I like seeing everyone's reactions and getting their input on my pieces, but also, some pieces I don't want to do, and it's more a matter of discipline.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if I get this out of the way, then I can move on to the thing I'm very passionate about. And it's sort of like a cycle with lots of my pieces. Some pieces I don't want to work on. It's just, lately it's just been a matter of doing it just so I can also improve the way I communicate and talk about my pieces online. Like, it provides an opportunity to get on camera and talk about the piece.
Yeah, no, fair enough. How have you found, obviously going online and having a presence online can be taxing to yourself. I'm doing the social media for this channel, and it's a lot in terms of always having to worry about timing, when to post. It's literally, social media is the only thing on your mind. Yeah. But then also the other part is like promoting things personally. I guess it's different for you because you've always done this your whole life as well. Yeah. So it's not when you post something new, everyone's expecting it. Everyone knows that this is what you do. So, but was that ever difficult? Like putting yourself out there, being vulnerable? Yeah, recently, I've only just started recently getting on camera a lot. I just started small. So I started just showing myself in photos more often, posing with my pieces because that's pretty easy. But yeah, recently I've started talking a lot more, and I've filmed a lot of talking videos, which are releasing in the coming days. And that's definitely been more of a challenge. I've got lots of B-roll footage of me just messing up and, staring off into the abyss and things like that. But I think it's an important aspect of it. And it's fun. Yeah, it is fun. You got to enjoy it, right? Yeah, I do enjoy it. This has been a lot of fun. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes I do get caught up too much in the little things like post timings and all that stuff like you mentioned. But that's why I'm just trying to produce as much as I can to get into kind of produce a system that I can just stick to, so it's not so much of a hassle trying to always think on it, and so it's always in the back of my mind. Like if I just have a system and a setup in place for it, eventually it'll just become so consistent that I'll be able to do it seamlessly all the time.
That won't become an issue anymore.
And about like, you mentioned some tips earlier about if you were just glad to get into this, right?
Yep.
What about some practical tips of equipment?
Like for drawing specifically?
Yeah, like what do you need to get started? If I wanted to go home and I'm like, Jaspa, I'm so inspired by you.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna whip up
you can kind of, that's the great thing about art. You don't have to have the most expensive materials for it. Most of my materials aren't that much. It's only my markers, which are quite costly. However, you can just, go to Kmart, Big W, wherever, just pick up some colored pencils and they work just the same, they all blend the same. It's just like quality of material when it costs more.
Yeah. I tried to paint once. I went up to Mount Osman with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And we sat there and tried to paint the sunset. And I came home and like you couldn't even tell what it was. I literally it was nighttime and I was painting like the road. And now that I think about going back, I wish I had your advice that you said of like paint what you see, not what you know.
Yeah.
Because it was nighttime and...
Is it a black road?
No, because like you're overlooking Adelaide, right?
Yeah.
So I literally drew I painted everything is black and I got the white paint and I just drew like lines for the roads. Yeah. I'm like, it does not look right at all. And I don't know why I never thought just spend time just looking at what you wanted and observing. Yeah. I think now going into editing, which I've done for this and color grading, I can pay attention now to tones. I could never tell before if someone had a yellow undertone or a red undertone or green undertone sometimes. But now I'm looking for it and I can actually pick it up and see. It's really cool. I wanted to we'll close off soon. But I wanted to ask you a question related to, it could be related to painting, but just to obviously this is not something that people do very often, podcasts. And the way we started the Noor Podcast, it's not for us to go and interview the most amazing and the most popular celebrities every week. That was never the plan. We wanted to show genuine, real people that what different people do for their lives. But then also what that means is for most of our guests, this is probably the only podcast they'll ever be on. For most of our guests, they're just very introverted people and they're, doing their own thing and they just happen to pay attention to them. And so just as a memory to yourself as well, I wanted to ask you, what's kind of the most difficult thing you've had to kind of overcome so far in your life? And what's probably something that you've learned from that?
Actually, I thought about this before. There's been a few difficult things, but I think one that stands out specifically, which kind of is the reason why I do what I do and what inspires me to do it while I can, is when I was younger, my uncle Eva, he passed away. He was only about 30. And my grandfather, his dad, passed away within about a year or two of that. And I think it's really put in perspective for me and my family that, tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. And so it's important to just make the most of and go after what you want while you can. And that's why I pursue this as much as I can, because it brings a certain purpose to my life and lots of happiness, and it's taught me lots of lessons about patience and understanding others, things like that. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was difficult because I was younger, so I didn't understand as much, but just growing up and seeing the way, despite the fact, they passed away so soon, I could confidently say that they lived more lifetimes than most people can say. They made the most of their life while they were here, and that's just, it inspires me to do the same, which is why I do what I do.
Yeah. Breaking that down a little bit, I think two things you said are really important, which was, making the most of every day is so important. I think planning is important, and I think having a plan and not just aimlessly going in life is important. But you can't forget the present. You know?
That's it.
The more you push into the future, the less you appreciate the present. And I think you're doing an amazing job at that. Like,
thank you.
You really are making the most out of every day, and unique in a way. Like, I love your attitude there. Like, it'll always be there.
It is.
But right now, I have this opportunity, I have this skill, I'm going to make the most of it, which is great. And the second thing you mentioned, which is like, you mentioned obviously it was tough for you, but you said you were a child, and I think it's important to note that obviously things can happen to us when we're kids and younger, and we don't understand it, but then we can grow into understanding it later on.
Yeah, that's it.
And you really appreciate how tough. Like, for me, it's not for myself, but some things that my parents have gone through, which when I was a kid I didn't understand, but now it's like you look at them differently.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you appreciate it differently. So, even though you were young, but it's good that you're able to take that lesson and actually apply it to your life.
Yeah. That's
yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I know it was a bit. I didn't want to make you uncomfortable or anything.
No, I was thinking about it like earlier, and I thought it'd be important to bring up.
Yeah, amazing. And to close off, I don't know if you've seen one of our episodes before. Have you seen an episode before?
No, I haven't seen a full one yet.
That's great.
I've just seen a little.
One day we will get a guest that has seen a full episode.
I'll watch that.
It's good because now you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
We have a tradition of closing the podcast off with one last question.
Okay.
And the idea behind this question is to show the audience that there's a lot of meaning in the people that are around you every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be your family. It can be your friends. It can be anyone that you kind of see on a regular basis or that you've interacted with. But who's someone that you kind of draw inspiration from or is a role model to you, not out in the world on social media or on the internet, but just in your life that you've had? And I think you might have answered the question already with your uncle, but might be someone else that you keep in mind, and that you try to emulate in your everyday life and you have learnt a lot from, that you want to kind of give thanks to.
I'll think on it for a minute.
Yeah. Because you mentioned your mum as well. I know that.
Yeah, I would say, can I mention two people?
You can mention as many people as you want.
I would say...
You can send this to them afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I'd say my mum, because she has been very uplifting and supportive of my work and just what I do, just in everything. And, been very encouraging. And then I'd say my dad as well, because he's always been one to say, when we were younger, or just even still, if we ever say, I can't do this, I can't do that, he's always been the first to say, yes, you can do that, you can do anything. Like, he's always been instilled lots of hard work ethic in me and my siblings. I feel like that balance, that combination is really accredited towards what I do today.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I think, having those strong parents and them understanding that their role is not to force you to be who they want you to be, it's to allow you to be who you want to be, right?
I want to, because some people aren't fortunate enough to have that same level of support, and I like to make sure I recognize that. But through my personal brand and stuff online, I want to work towards being that person for others. I want to, whenever I can, I like to support others in whatever pursuit it may be, whether it be doing a podcast or art like myself or fitness, just whatever. If you want to do something, you can do it.
Yeah. Amazing. Have you ever, I'm just curious now, have you ever painted your parents before?
I haven't actually.
Yeah?
I did a photo shoot of my mum. I'm supposed to draw it at some point. I got to get around to it.
Yeah.
I haven't yet. No, I should.
There you go. I'll look out for it on the channel. No, amazing. Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you for saying yes in the sauna, for coming through. Honestly, just you have a hook. You have a hook of a story that makes people go, that's not normal. But definitely something to learn from. And I think it's so inspiring that you were able to have a dream, but then actually follow through with it. And I hope you have a lot of success, because I think I can see the hard work you're putting behind it. And I think you're just going to grow exponentially. So,
appreciate it.
It's been awesome.
Thank you. It's been awesome.